Over the last 6 years, I've quietly funneled more than $60,000 into the hands of people sleeping on the cold concrete. Sounds completely altruistic, right? Except there's a massive catch that is definitely going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. More than half of that money didn't come from my day job. It came from a grueling combination of relentless side hustles and high-end retail theft. Let's get one thing straight before you rush to judge me. I operate with a very strict, unyielding moral code. I only ever target faceless, multi-billion-dollar corporate retail giants. I wouldn't dream of stealing a single nickel from a local mom-and-pop shop that is struggling just to pay the rent and keep the lights on. Over hundreds of carefully targeted runs, I've walked right out of massive warehouse stores with carts packed full of everyday essentials. And remarkably, I've never officially been caught. Once, store security came dangerously close to stopping me, but I managed to bluff my way out with absolute confidence. The rest of the funding came straight from grueling overtime shifts and my regular salary. It all started innocently enough. I spotted a young couple living out of a battered, dented sedan. They looked entirely exhausted and completely broken. Consequently, I pulled my car over and treated them to a heavy, hot meal at Sizzler's. That single unassuming act of kindness opened my eyes completely, yet it also completely derailed my normal routine. Suddenly, I couldn't just look away and pretend they didn't exist. I started buying them grocery gift cards. They urgently needed baby supplies. I provided them immediately. They tried desperately to find stability, consequently working odd jobs whenever they possibly could. Eventually, through a combination of their own gritty effort and my financial pushes, they actually secured a small apartment. To celebrate their fresh start, I bought them a brand new queen-size mattress. Now, the baby didn't have to sleep on the hard, cold floor of a car anymore. Instead, the little one could finally rest safely right beside their parents. Naturally, my mission didn't stop there. I began scouting local alleyways, underpasses, and parks. I handed out crisp cash, fresh juices, and warm food to anyone who would accept it. Soon after, I bumped into a veteran named Marcus who had lost both his home and his entire family to crushing medical debt. Naturally, I stepped in to help. I started paying for a safe, warm room at a local extended stay motel during brutal winter snaps. Afterward, I began covering his recurring medical prescriptions and fresh grocery bills every single week. Even now, to this very day, I still check in on him regularly and help fund his difficult path back to stability. People frequently ask me how I sleep at night. They wonder how I manage to reconcile breaking the law with my professed faith. Honestly, I don't feel a single ounce of guilt. As a devout Christian, I firmly believe that feeding the hungry, clothing the poor, and sheltering the broken is infinitely more important than guarding a massive corporation's bottom line. That balance between breaking the law and following a higher moral code has defined my entire adult life. When I walk down the gleaming aisles of those massive retail stores, pushing a cart past rows of expensive electronics, high-end baby formula, and bulk clothing, I don't see merchandise. I see potential rent payments. I see warm blankets for freezing nights. I see survival. Corporate entities write off millions of dollars every single year as standard inventory shrinkage. They factor theft directly into their pricing models, absorbing the loss without blinking an eye. Meanwhile, a family living in a car is forced to watch their infant daughter breathe in freezing air because they cannot afford basic shelter. The math in my head has always been simple. Consequently, I became the bridge between corporate excess and absolute human destitution. Of course, the execution requires absolute discipline. You cannot walk into a major retailer looking nervous, shifting your eyes, or drawing attention to yourself. You have to carry yourself like you own the place. You walk with purpose. You fill your cart with specific items that can easily be resold or handed directly to those in need. Baby products, non-perishable foods, warm winter jackets, and toiletries. Then, you bypass the registers with an easy stride. The closest I ever came to losing everything happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon inside a massive big box store. I had a cart loaded down with winter coats and infant formula. A loss prevention officer stepped out from behind a pillar, blocking my exit, and asked for my receipt. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Panic clawed at my throat. Yet, instead of running, I leaned entirely into audacity. I looked him dead in the eye, flashed an irritated, exhausted expression, and loudly complained that my wife was waiting in the car with a sick baby and that I had already left the receipt in the other vehicle. I threw my hands up in disgust, turned around, and walked away at a brisk pace. He didn't follow me. That was the last time I ever pushed my luck that far. After that scare, I diversified, I picked up second and third shifts doing manual labor, hauling boxes, and cleaning commercial offices late at night. The physical exhaustion was brutal. My hands cracked, my back ached constantly, and sleep became a distant memory. Yet, every single time fatigue threatened to break my spirit, I remembered the face of that young couple's baby sleeping soundly on the new mattress. I remembered Marcus smiling when I handed him the key to a warm room. People often look at the world in black and white. They assume that obeying the law automatically makes you good, and breaking it automatically makes you evil. But reality is painted in messy, complicated shades of gray. I am a criminal. Yes, by the strict definition of the state's legal code, I am a thief. But when I stand before God at the end of all things, I am entirely confident in the ledger I carry. I did not steal for greed. I did not steal to buy luxury cars, designer watches, or empty status symbols. I stole out of pure, desperate necessity so that human beings wouldn't freeze to death in the shadows of society's towering wealth. 6 years, over $60,000, countless late-night shifts, and dozens of stolen cartloads later, I have no intention of stopping. The streets are still cold, corporations are still recording record profits, and there are still too many people who need someone to care. At the end of the day, this story forces us to confront a deeply uncomfortable collision between legality and basic human morality. When a society allows billions in corporate surplus while families sleep on freezing concrete, it creates a massive vacuum where traditional systems fail. This isn't about glorifying crime or encouraging lawbreaking. It's about a stark, unsettling reality check on what happens when institutional safety nets completely break down. It challenges everyone watching to look past black and white definitions of right and wrong and ask a much harder question. When the system looks away from human suffering, who actually bears the responsibility to act?